This cheat sheet will cover the entire Kabbalistic structure of spiritual realms, together with our psyche in a simple 5-stage chart. You'll also be hearing from leading influencers in the field, Manas Friedman, Simon Jacobson, and Shay Staub, which I had the pleasure to recently talk to. I remember my early stages of Kabbalah study. I felt like I would never understand it. But then I found these two fascinating Kabbalah publications. Both hold the teachings of the famed
Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson,
known as the Rebbe, whose father, by the way, was also a famous Kabbalist and was arrested by the notorious Soviet secret police. He sadly passed away after being tormented in a Soviet gulag. His brother and his wife's sister and her family were taken away by the Nazis, never to return. The Rebbe, however, made it away from the Nazis to America and became a loving and influencing leader to everyone who approached him. In this Kabbalistic publication, he outlines everything so simply and articulately in just 5 stages. Therefore, this video will be presented in stages. First, we'll examine our psyche, so this part should be more familiar. Then we'll connect all the dots and come out with a fascinating perception of mystical ideas. Here's a question for you to ponder, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What is it about people that do evil things that causes them to do so? Take the most extreme example of the Nazis. What about them caused them to act the way they did? Regardless of your answer, I'm sure you'll agree that everything we do as humans has a root in our psyche before it is done. First, we think or feel it, and then we act on it. Every act we do comes from our personality or psyche. But what is our personality and psyche? So we have 2 general categories within us. We have our emotional capabilities, and then we have our intellect. Now I have a question for you. Which controls which? Does a bad guy first have an urge to harm someone and then forms the logic of how and why to do so? Or is it that first they had a bad idea in their mind, and that makes them have all these evil urges and emotions? Do our feelings control the way we understand things? Or is it the opposite? Does our mind control our emotions? Feel free to pause the video and put your answer in the comments. And by the way, if you're liking the video, don't forget to drop a like. Whatever you responded, you're probably right, because at times our emotions direct our mind, and at times it's the other way around. But there's a fundamental distinction here. Our feelings control us when we're not trying to take responsibility over the actions we do. But what's fascinating is that when we do want to go ahead and take control of our actions, our conscious mind, our intellectual faculties, control how we act and can override the way we feel about things. And that's because our emotions are born from our intellect. In summary, if so, feelings come from our intellect and actions come from our feelings. Because intellect is more theoretical and emotions are personal, so they get us to actually do things. So let's connect the first dot right now. Just like everything we do has a cause in our psyche, comparably, this entire universe is the result of an underlying profound purpose. Through continuing our investigation here, we'll gain clarity on what exactly that is. We've just skimmed through all the 10 Sefirot. There are 3 intellectual, 3 emotional, then 3 emotional instincts which basically push us to act. But for now, let's put all the emotions into one category, so there's 6 emotional. Then finally action, all the way on the bottom, and that makes the 10 Sefirot. The higher up the Sephira, the more spiritual and refined.
The higher you go, the less words there are, and the less tangible definitions, because you're dealing with very abstract definitions.
Now it's time to connect some more dots. We live in a physical universe. In Kabbalah, it's called Asiya. But everything here in this physical world has a spiritual and meaningful dimension to it.
So wherever you go, there's always a certain level of energy within that is not visible.
Just like our human actions have a drive coming from our psyche, Same with this world of action. What does that mean? There's a cosmic force putting physicality into being? The answer is absolutely yes. In Kabbalah, the world of Yetzirah corresponds to the emotional cosmic drive, and the world of Beriah corresponds to the intellectual cosmic drive, which comes before the emotional. But to simplify this, let's think of it like this. When we humans give a gift to a loved one, how did that happen? Well, first we had the idea, and then we started the planning, etc. If so, this gift really existed in an imaginary form before it existed in an actual form. As an idea, it can either develop into an emotional form, or it could just remain a good idea. How many times have we thought of giving somebody a gift, but then never got around to it? But once emotions come into play, we're much more likely to go ahead and get it done. The spiritual dimensions of Kabbalah can be thought of in the same way.
So before he said, let there be, he thought, let there be. Before he thought, let there be, he wanted, let there be. And before he wanted, he sensed the pleasure in it.
The universe is actual, but before it came to be in this form, there was a theoretical stage. Kabbalah would call that Beriah. Then this theoretical idea of the universe got shape and formed into a realm called Yetzirah, which is literally translated as formation. In other words, it's more developed here, similar to how an idea is formed in our emotions to reach action. Finally, the time has come to reveal the entire cheat sheet. It's not really a sheet, it's more like just oral information. I hope you're fine with that. There are 5 categories we need to cover here. First, we're going to talk about 4. We'll get to the 5th later. So we have the 10 Sefirot, which correspond to the 4 spiritual realms, which are part of the evolution of the spiritual cosmos. Now, we have them in our human experience, and they also exist within each one of these spiritual realms, and they transfer the data from one world to the next.
And we said there are 4 general worlds, but really there are subcategories, sub-levels of every world. The Sefirot are the dimensionality of each world. So within each world, you have the 10 Sefirot.
The 4 worlds can be copied and pasted to a higher set of 4 realms, which explains the necessity of all these different levels.
You have to also keep in mind in Kabbalistic language, these 4 worlds repeat themselves.
But wait a second, we're talking about 4 worlds over here, but we only spoke about 3. Okay, so let's talk about the 4th stage now. We said that any physical act must first have its cause in our emotional psyche, which comes from our intellectual. But where does intellect come from? In the framework of spiritual realms, how does the world Beriah, the theoretical state of all existence, emerge? The answer is the 4th level we're waiting to talk about. In the 10th Sefirot, it's the very top one, which actually more like engulfs all the 10 Sefirot rather than being counted as a particular Sephira. It's called Keser, which means crown, representing how it's above and surrounds all the others. It has the spark of truth and meaning of all the Sefirot.
Now what's funny is, we speak about phases before the beginning phase. We call it Keser, the crown. Like the crown goes on top of the head.
But to truly understand this, we need to add to our cheat sheet the 5 stages and levels of the soul. The soul also has 5 levels.
The soul uses the same 10 faculties that God uses in creating the world. So our soul is very similar to God in a very reduced form.
The first 4 levels of the soul are called Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, and Chaya. The lowest 3 of these levels correspond to the 3 levels we've already been speaking about in the beginning of this video: action, emotion, and intellect. These are parts of the soul that become one with us and part of our human experience, which means that when we understand something godly and holy, we are experiencing the neshama part of our soul. And when we experience a pure and holy emotion, we're experiencing the ruach part of our soul. And nefesh is the action part of our soul. But the fourth level of the soul is the one that doesn't enter our human psyche and experience because it gives us life. It gives life to our thought, speech, and action equally. Since it doesn't differentiate between various human experiences like thinking and doing, we therefore can't relate to it. Now, when it comes to logic, where does logic come from?
But if you ask the question, where did the spark come from? Oh, suddenly, out of nowhere, you have an idea, right? So some people say it comes from the shower head, because more of my ideas come in the shower. We know it's not coming from the shower. So where do ideas come from? And we all wonder, wow, I had that idea. You know it came from somewhere, but you can't quite identify it. That's like a glimpse into the superconscious. So you can't see the superconscious, but you know it's there. It's like you see a flash of light, so it had to come from somewhere.
So logic comes from the truth. First, this truth and purity comes from our soul and engulfs all of our human 10 Sefirot. Then it can become conscious as it becomes compressed into our mind as a human idea. To bring this fourth level of the soul a little closer to our understanding, let's talk about some extreme human experiences we have to see if we can understand it. A person escaping a concentration camps and will run for hours and days and perhaps weeks with severe malnutrition, or a parent jumping to save their child from a tsunami. They don't even calculate if it's worth risking their own life, which might be lost in the process. These experiences are our human way of relating to what's beyond intellect. These extreme human experiences are parallel to the Sefirot of Keser, the fourth level, the one which is beyond our intellect and understanding. In short, it's hard to truly understand this fourth level because it's our life source. It's not limited and confined like we are, it's connected to our core essence. On the map of the four spiritual cosmic worlds, it's called Atzilus, which is the source of all physical and spiritual creation. If the world of Beriah is the theory and source of physical creation, then the world of Atzilus is the undefined source beyond any specific theories. There's a massive leap between the fourth level and the other three. In the scheme of the four worlds, Beriah means creation because it comes as something from nothing from the fourth level, Atzilus. In our psyche, it's the infinite life and purpose coming from our soul and isn't fully grasped in our consciousness. Therefore, when we copy and paste the four worlds to the higher set of four worlds, there is a mass contraction, a tzimtzum, which is a concealment, a removal of God's infinite light and energy called Or Ein Sof. If you haven't seen our video on the map of the Kabbalistic cosmos, then you should know that there are 3 levels after the tzimtzum. These 3 levels work similarly to the 3 worlds closest to us, just that the world we know as Atzilus, the 4th level, is actually the last of those 3. Okay, I think that was the whole cheat sheet I was thinking of, so, oh wait, the 5th level. Okay, so the 5th level is the core and essence of every being. In the soul, it's called Yechido, which is a singular. In other words, it is completely singular and unified within God's essence. It's the core of everything, and it's beyond, completely beyond what we even consider being beyond. Now, to understand all these topics much better, please check our other videos out with links in the description below. I hope you liked this video, so if you did, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you aren't yet. And as always, thank you for watching.